I think at the beginning of the year, we all thought that Modern Horizons 3 was going to be the most pushed set of the year, and I think that's pretty true. We would all agree to that. But for a standard set, Jake, some of the Duskmourn cards that we've seen so far are leading me to believe that we've got a super pushed standard set on our hands.
Yeah, MH3 had obviously the fetch lands, so that's a good land cycle. But by the end of this, you're going to see that this set as well has some very good lands for a standard set. Unwanted Remake, this is a really cool card. I like the name of it as well. This kind of is like just like the meme of like, oh God, they made another movie from this franchise. You got another Unwanted Remake. For 1 white, instant speed, destroy target creature. Its controller manifests Dread, which is kind of like Joel brought this up, but stapling Surveil and Manifest together. They're going to look at the top 2 cards of their library, then put one onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature and the other into their graveyard. And then if it is a creature card, you can turn it face up anytime for its mana cost. But this is a destruction spell in Commander, is very powerful. It is in the ranks of Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares as far as mana cost, and it does the job. Caverns of Ixalan gave us Discover instead of Cascade. You had in the detective set that nobody wants to talk about, a more souped up version of the hide mechanic there, whatever that was called, disguise, whatever that was called. And now you've got another old mechanic that they've taken any feels bad out of for the receiving end, or at least they've tried to smooth that experience a little bit by saying, you're not just going to get the random card off the top, you're going to get to choose between 2 cards, and maybe you can put a creature face down so that you could potentially turn it face up. Just thought that's interesting. Another within 365 days set that is taking an old mechanic and making it better. Just being like, it's better now. Here we go. This is the preferred version. I think that's interesting. But what's more interesting to me, Jake, is that to look at this card and go, where does this fall in the Commander rankings of targeted destruction? You have to put this up in the same conversation as Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exile. I'm not saying this is a better card. Those are obviously 1 and 2. I'm not saying those are exactly. But this card, is it 3? Is it 4 behind any of the, 2 mana destroy target permanent, like Give them a Clue, whatever those cards are? I think it's really strong, and you've at least got to have the conversation. Yes, I agree with you. I think it's a very good card. It's why it's in the video. At uncommon, this is going to be one of those cards that, at least in limited, you're going to want it. And before we get into the rest of our cards, we want to tell you really quickly about our great sponsors. Card Conduit, that's a great spot to sell your singles that are $1 or more. If you have singles that are piling up, send them to our beautiful sponsor, Card Conduit. They do buy listing. They're going to save you a ton of time. Even some of Card Conduit's biggest critics in our Patreon have come back and said, that was a great experience, man. That ended up being really good. So we thank you, Card Conduit. TCG Player, that is a great spot for buying all of your MTG singles. Take the credit that you got at Card Conduit. Make sure to use Jake and Joel's affiliate link that you can find in the description of your video and purchase your singles over on TCG Player. They have a huge marketplace where you can buy all of the stuff that you're looking for. And then also Drip Shop, where you're going to find us at least once a month streaming, giving away some of the newest set. We have auctions. We have really cool blind box stuff over there. There's so many different ways that you can come enjoy our Drip stream. You can find credit for Drip in the description of the video. Jake and Joel Are Magic's also brought to you by Dragon Shield, MTG Stocks, and Moxfield. And then we do have a new card here with, this is the Room card. So this is 2 cards that you have to play next to each other. Yeah, so for the sake of the edit, I'll turn this. Right, yeah. So we'll be out of the way. We'll have to read this like this, but everybody else will have it like this on the screen. So yeah, Jake, this is Enchantment Rooms. It's a new subtype of enchantments. You can play either side, and that becomes the unlocked room. The unlocked door is the flavor mechanic, and that piece is active. Now, once that side is played and on the battlefield, you can pay the mana cost of the other side as well to open that door up. So let's run it with Dollmaker Shop and Porcelain Gallery here, and I'll show you the power of this card. 2 mana. You can put it onto the battlefield as an enchantment that says whenever one or more non-toy creatures you control attack a player, create a 1/1 white toy artifact creature token. Fantastic. And at 2 mana, this effect in decks that want it, this is an insane card for that. Then later, you can pay 6 mana and unlock the other door
aka make the other part active as well, and it says creatures you control have base power and toughness, each equal to the number of creatures you control. So you can see how this one in particular is sort of a straightforward scale up for a go wide deck, but you can see the potential strength of Enchantment Rooms and just the pushed way that they could be designed, because it's an enchantment that you basically like level up. It's kind of a level up style enchantment. Very interesting, and I really like them playing with this mechanical space, which is very similar to classes and leveling up and Outlast, stuff like that.
Right. In the past, we've seen these kind of cards before where you had to either pick an effect or pay everything all at once to get both sides, that kind of thing. So this is now interesting that we have a card that comes in as a permanent and does one thing, and now if we have nothing else to do, nothing to cast from our hand, or if it is advantageous for us to activate the other side, we can do that.
Flavorfully, I will say it's also scary, because think about it. I've played enough go wide green decks where I'm sitting there going, please draw my overrun, please draw my overrun, please draw my overrun. This just is sitting on the battlefield waiting for you. This is your finishing move. All of your 1/1s become, you know, if you got 10 creatures, they're all 10/10s plus everything else that they have been added to with anthems and such. This one is a very cool design space that I'm excited to see more of.
Enduring Curiosity is a fun card. 2 blue and 2 other for a 4/3 with flash. It's got the F word on it. Cat Glimmer. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, a creature. And whenever Enduring Curiosity dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its controller's control. It's an enchantment. It starts as a creature, and when it dies, it just comes back and is an enchantment. We are, as the player, have to keep up with that. Has it already died? Yes. So now it's an enchantment. If it dies again, then it's gone.
Right, because it was a creature or will not be a creature this time. Reconnaissance, Coastal Piracy. This enchantment is pretty famous. 2 blue, 2 other. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. How about we give it flash? How about we make it so that it can attack and trigger its own ability? If we're going to do that, let's not have any feels bad. Let's make it so that if the creature dies, how about it just comes back? Oh, for free, and you don't have to pay anything else ever again. Oh, okay, cool. Strictly better Coastal Piracy. All the decks that run a bunch of 1/1s in the air that want to run Coastal Piracy are suddenly like, the Cat Glimmer is for me.
Cat Glimmer is for me.
We're pushing designs across the board. We got another room here. Jake in editing can throw this sideways for your benefit. We will turn our heads. Jake, it's 3 mana on the 1 room side to create a token copy of a target creature you control. 3 mana to do that effect, pretty good return. Then for 7, you can unlock the other door, and it says if a triggered ability of a permanent you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. We have seen this text before. Very expensive to get that Panharmonicon online, but 3 mana for a copy of a creature you control as a token, not terrible.
Do you have to do one side or the other first?
You cast either half and then you do the other half.
So even though it says when you unlock this door, that's just something that is on this card as flavor.
It's to distinguish that you're not recasting a spell, because it's already on the battlefield. It's like level up. It's like classes, any of that stuff. It's just, it becomes basically, I think, an activated ability. I'm not sure the intricacies of the rules on that. Like, how do I counter this? Am I countering a triggered ability, an activated ability, a spell? What the fuck is this? I don't know that yet, but I do know that it says that to distinguish between, we're not recasting Mirror Room. So if you did by chance cast Fractured Realm first, you can cast Mirror Room after that, or activate or turn on open the door to Mirror Room and get a token creature of something you have on the battlefield. I'll also say I did see a rules clarification on this, that if you cheat this onto the battlefield, both doors start locked. So you can't do a weird Enchantment Room trickery and cheat it onto the battlefield and have all of the effects all at once, which I think is a good way of designing this.
So if you were to do something like open the vaults or some sort of thing that returns all enchantments from your graveyard to the battlefield, but you still have to invest the mana into both sides of it.
Exactly.
Cool.
You have to, at sorcery speed, pay the mana cost of the locked door to unlock it. Enchantment Rooms are cool. They seem cooler to me than battles, and so I'm like already in. if we're going to mess around with world enchantment type things, let's lean more in this direction than it can be attacked, but cool permanent type.
Next up, we have Demonic Council, and this is a card that you're going to want if you are playing demon decks, but Delirium is not that hard to turn on. Search your library for a demon card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And then if Delirium is online, meaning 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, instead you're going to search for any card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So it's just Demonic Tutor at sorcery speed. It starts as a demon-only tutor, and then Delirium turns it into Demonic Tutor. Same casting cost and everything. I think that this card is very fun, and it's a way of printing cards that seem like super high power into a standard set, but also reining them in.
Yeah, I wonder, Jake, how much you want to hedge. From our discussions on this and what you've said in this video, you're pretty mid on this card. How much do you think that you would hedge this becoming some like breakout, powerful, you know, I want a 1 copy in my legacy deck thing versus an unplayable, cute take on Demonic Tutor?
It's like so easy when you think about it, like land, sorcery, instant, you know, like you can get to the four card types pretty quickly, right?
And then if you go older, land, exactly. Land, creature, instant, sorcery, those super easy. And I would also argue that artifact may be more simple than land in some formats.
Yes.
If you don't have fetches. So not difficult by any means to turn on Delirium, but you got to do it before you can go get your exact card.
All-star demon card, like A+.
Yeah. Any
Is
demon
it going to be a generic commander card?
Right.
Yet to be known.
We'll see. I do like it though. I love this trend of taking powerful cards and making homages to them. Jake, here's a throwback to an older mechanic, ninjutsu again, with a very interesting design on a planeswalker. I'm not sure yet how pushed this is, but it's so interesting, I thought we needed to discuss it. Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, a black, a blue, and 2 for a 4 loyalty. Legendary Kaito. It says ninjutsu of 3, so you can return an unblocked attacker and put this planeswalker onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking during your turn. As long as Kaito has 1 or more loyalty counters on him, he's a 3/4 ninja with hexproof that has the ability to +1 and get an emblem on the plus. With ninjas you control get +1/+1, 0 to surveil 2 and draw a card for each opponent who lost life this turn. By the way, he can cause them to lose life. Hello. And then tap a creature to put 2 stun counters on it just for -2, not even a -3. I really like this design. This looks like one of the most fun planeswalkers I've seen in a long time, and I'm excited to try it out.
Whenever planeswalkers just passively animate into a creature that can swing with hexproof, I'm like, what? Absolutely, in a 1v1 setting, this is a massively busted card.
Seems rough,
yes,
right?
I do think, you know, like ninjas in Commander will want it just because getting an emblem that's not going to go away is going to be really strong for your team and the squad. So that makes sense. But yeah, in a 1v1 setting, this card is absolute shenanigans. The fact that it's coming in as an attacker, and like it used to be with Gideon, you had to pay a cost, turn him into an attacker, and then he would swing, and it's like, that's what he did that turn.
Right.
But now it's like, oh no, it has loyalty on it. So now it's swinging as a 3/4, and you can do stuff with it if you need to.
It's funny that you said Gideon, because Gideon, I believe, correct me in the comments, is the only other planeswalker that has ever been printed that could come onto the battlefield and immediately give you an emblem, which, if you're not familiar with emblems can't be interacted with. It's not anything, it just exists. So you can't say destroy target emblem, destroy target, destroy all enchantments. It doesn't get hit by anything. It just is a present thing for the rest of the game. And so it's a really big deal when you can get them immediately for just the investment of the mana cost, even if it's a smaller one like ninjas you control have an anthem. I like Kaito a lot. Makes me want to play standard, play a little ninjutsu deck. Think it could be cool.
Next, we have Instant Speed, Peer Past the Veil. 1 green, 1 red, and 2 other. Discard your hand, then draw X cards, where X is the number of card types among cards in your graveyard. So we were just talking about Delirium. The more stuff you got in the graveyard, this is we got like kind of like a wheel kind of feeling going on here. It's expensive at 4 mana, but definitely a card worth considering if you want to discard the hand and then just draw from the yard. Even if you have 0 cards, discard 0, then draw up. Seems pretty fun.
Instant speed draw in Gruul for Commander, I think is very interesting. Typically, this is like Hunter's Insight, which has to deal with combat damage. You can harmonize and draw 3. You can Return of the Wild Speaker and another one, Rishkar's Expertise, and draw power equal to a creature's power. And that's all good, but as far as like a lower mana attack at that for more consistent return, I feel like this can get basically harmonized right. That's the line that this has to cross or it sucks, because nobody runs Harmonize anymore. And Peer Past the Veil, if you've only got an instant, a sorcery, and a creature card in your graveyard, you're discarding your hand to draw 3. Not fantastic. But once we're past that, land, creature, instant, sorcery is 4. Then you've got enchantment, artifact to get you up to draw 6. Then you've got planeswalker and enchantment, artifact, planeswalker, and battle, and whatever past that. I think
I'm running Tarfire in this deck just because Tarfire is a tribal instant goblin card.
Exactly.
So it's hitting tribal and instant.
Right.
And Tarfire deals 2 damage to target creature or player. In Commander, that's going to be low beans, but for this card, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's an extra card, right?
Right. Draw 4, draw 5 at instant speed in Gruul is the bar that this kind of has to cross for me to make my full argument for this card here. But I saw it and was very interested in seeing how we could make it play. Got to be a Gruul deck that's filling up your graveyard consistently, but that exists.
It's like a giant sky butthole on top of a bunch of like an amusement park.
Yeah, one of my favorite amusement parks, honestly, has the sky butthole above everybody. Overlord of the Mistmoors is kind of up there being a sky butthole a little bit, because I feel like this is going to attack a lot of players' wish to play Magic the Gathering anymore. This is like a Grave Titan that creates flyers. Overlord of the Mistmoors, let's talk about Impending. 7 mana for a 6/6 at its base. When it enters or attacks, create 2/2/1 white insect creature tokens with flying. Wow. 7 mana is a lot. Good reanimator target. However, Impending 4. You pay 4 mana. You put 4 time counters on it. It goes onto the battlefield. This isn't like, what do you call it? Suspend. This is on the battlefield doing its thing for 4 mana. So, for 4 mana, when you cast it, that passive text still triggers, y'all. Not a trigger, but you know what I'm saying. That passive text still applies down there. Whenever it enters or attacks, create 2/2/1 white insect creature tokens with flying. So you play it as an enchantment for the Impending. You get the 2/2/1 flyers. When the last counter is removed, it can attack as a 6/6 and also create more 2/1 flyers in the air. I don't know how this isn't busted. You know, maybe power creep has just gotten so ridiculous that my analysis is completely off, and 4 mana to put 4 flying power in the air, that is eventually going to be way more. That seems really intense to me to deal with.
Yeah, you're paying 4, and essentially, you know where I put this. I would put this right alongside, something like Flage in a Jeskai kind of like control kind of thing. If it were like Modern, I think like there's a world where this can be a control finisher, just because you're getting dudes, and later on, as you control the board, you're going to passively get a 6/6, but now it's attacking and it's also creating more dudes.
Once the time counters are off, you attack for 10. You attack for 10. Once you've taken all the time counters off, you have nothing else.
Modern and Pioneer aside, and just talking about, in Standard, for example, this seems like a fantastic control finisher. It's a white card. It's going to get you the flyers that you need to, get the early game going. And it doesn't say like those can't block, those can do stuff. Those are going to hack in as 2/1s in the air until they are answered. And yes, later on in the game, you're just going to passively get a 6/6 that's ready to go and make more flyers. I think the card is incredibly strong.
I love the ping on it of control, because the first 2 that it drops down are just a wall, and you can board wipe the turn before this turns on and then attack for 10. Because it's just an enchantment. I love Impending. I think it's a really fun mechanic. I am interested to see how busted it is, and if it
Commander green-white tokens.
Oh yeah.
I mean, geez,
insane.
Can't think of a better card.
Really a fan of the Avatar Horrors. Jake, I threw one of our face commanders on here. This is one of the 4 pre-con face commanders, but it's one that's gotten a lot of buzz right out of the gate because of that delirium ability on it.
Delirium is definitely a thing. I like that they brought it back. As long as there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, each opponent's maximum hand size is equal to 7 minus the number of card types. Wow.
Brutal.
I don't know how much people are going to like this. I'm going to be honest.
Dog, they put Ward 2 on this. They said, oh man, what if the person playing this just gets targeted? Yeah, they're going to.
Exactly.
We're going to target them.
Right.
And so they were like, let's make it more fun and put Ward 2 on it so that now all our Doomblades cost 4. Yeah, who knows? Can't target this with Doomblade either. So is it the perfect commander? It might be.
It also has kind of like a mill vibe built into it. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards. So you're drawing cards, they are drawing cards. If you want to build this in with like, it's in red black, so there's a lot of cards that you could put in here, like Underworld Dreams and things like that are going to allow people to take damage when they're drawing those extra cards. You can run additional effects like that, like Howling Mine and Temple Bell in here because of the Delirium kind of thing. You're going to be discarding things, I would imagine, if you go over your hand size and just naturally get to Delirium. This is going to be a lightning rod. And you're right. People are going to remove it because they should. I'm wondering if this is going to be one of those commanders that is just too broken
Turgid
and it kind
style?
of gets, Turgid style or Voja style, where it's just like, you got the ward built in, so it's already got the problem on it, right? It's like, it might be just way, way too good.
We'll see. It's rare that we get this oppressive or kind of ridiculous commander out of the precons. But we'll see. I like it. I think there are a lot of interesting ways to build it, as a design. Draw a lot. You can do it as an abundance of resources thing, as a mill thing, like you said, as a discard thing, as a sacrifice thing. There's a lot of different ways to get stuff into your graveyard to trigger that delirium. And there's a lot you can do with drawing 2 extra cards at every beginning of your turn. And there's a lot you can do with forcing your opponents to draw 2 cards at the beginning of every of your turns. And so, it's obviously a really interesting wide design here. I just really have a issue with everyone's hand getting reduced that significantly. I'm interested how much the giving us 2 extra cards at the beginning of our turn offsets that as far as designs go. Jake, we saw a planeswalker that enters the battlefield as a tapped and attacking creature, but it's not a creature by the time your turn has come, so you can't hit it with Split Up. But I think a lot of things are going to get hit by Split Up because we've got a 3 mana board wipe. We got a 3 mana board wipe that tapped all your lands down in Amonkhet. But Split Up is here. No downside except it's only going to catch either the tapped ones or the untapped ones. But Boros Convoke has been a deck now for a little while in multiple formats. And so tapping all of your creatures to do something and then casting Split Up, destroy all of their all untapped creatures, or vice versa. They've attacked in, you're about to attack, you wipe their board, you attack in, pass. Split Up seems like it's going to have play in a lot of different decks, a lot of different formats.
Whether you decide to go with tapped or untapped based on your board state in Commander, you're going to be able to figure it out organically, or you can cast something like Sleep, tap down somebody's creatures and then cast this. It's a political card as well, because you're going to be able to, work with people and be like, oh, what do you have that's tapped? What do you have that's untapped? How do we want to play this card? 3 mana is very good for a board wipe type effect that has flexibility. I'm really excited about this one. I feel like I'd like it even as a 4 cost. Just being able to decide between one or the other is really interesting to me as well. You don't often get that, with something like Austere Command. It comes with 4 modes, but it costs 6. This has 2 very important modes that you can decide between, and it costs 3. I think it's a very powerful spell.
It's also really interesting for me as an aggro player to see a board wipe and actually be interested in running it, because I could play my strategy around it, obviously, and maybe catch 2 or 3 of their creatures kind of all at once. Jake, all at once is not how we are getting our new rare land cycle, but we are getting 5 of them, and it made our eyes pop the very first time we saw it.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of like Tainted Wood, these kind of lands back in the past where they would enter and there was no enter tapped, and it's just they tap for colorless, and if you control a swamp, you would add green or black. So they're kind of similar to that. You know, like let's take a look at, for example, the Gloom Lake Verge here, a blue-black land. It immediately comes in and can tap for blue. Now it can tap for black only if you control an island or a swamp. So makes sense there's no land types on these. And with the shock lands and the surveil lands, there's so many ways that these can just come in ready to go, and I don't think players are going to have a tough time making sure that they tap for both colors.
No, not at all. I've always thought, well, I've not thought the way it is. Modern is, you know, a fetch and a shock. It feels kind of like maybe Pioneer will become your shocks and your verges. You know, we're gonna play verges now across all of them. Need some play testing, obviously, because there is a little bit of downside. Like if you're in a 2-color aggro deck, you know, Thornspire Verge, for instance, if you're trying to drop a turn 1 Llanowar Elf, is not as good because it's only going to tap for red until you've activated. And so, you know, decks that are going to need a specific color on turn 1, on turn 2, may not be super interested in the verges, but like I said, it's going to need some testing because everybody may be interested in these. They are wonderfully impressive looking rare land cycle for a standard set. I'm very, very happy to have these in this set.
This is what we were talking about in the beginning of the video when we said, you know, like MH3 had was a really good set. It had a good cycle of lands, being the fetch lands, but these are some lands that don't come into play tapped. They're in a standard set, and I do think that they are very good. I think Commander players are going to want them a lot. They're going to be extremely easy to turn on in Commander. And as far as standard, wanting them, Pioneer or Modern, anything like that, I definitely think they'll have a home in Standard, but we'll see what other Eternal formats decide to adopt these.
Duskmourn is going to be covered at length on our channel. If you watched the video this far, consider subscribing and catching the rest of our coverage of the set. We'll see you Wednesday evenings live. You can come hang out with all these wonderful people whose names you see scrolling through the middle of the screen. These are our patrons at the $10 level or higher. Lovely supporters of the channel. Get some free custom dragon shields with the channel logos and art right there on them. Go check out our Patreon, see if it's a good fit for you.
And big thank you to you as well, the viewer, the subscriber. If you are here back for your second or third Jake and Joel video, you aren't subscribed, well, definitely go ahead and subscribe. We're going to be back with many more videos.